Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and Tim Burchett is absolutely fed up with the CNN reporter who can't admit even for a single moment that Elon Musk is doing a good job with DOGE. Let's dive in.
So this number it's very big. So, and you know the sensitivities around tackling entitlement cuts. But any expert...
Ma'am, but you have to ask yourself, why are these people so opposed to finding waste, abuse, and fraud in these departments? Because the money, ma'am, the money would get back to the people in need.
The issue is the cuts to the benefits versus waste, fraud, and abuse. I think there seems to be a lot of support, right, for waste, fraud, and abuse. The issue is that if you talk to folks who can actually know the amount of waste, fraud, and abuse that you could tackle, they say you can't get that number of the cuts that he's talking about. They say you can't balance the budget, which is obviously something Republicans really want to do, without being honest about cutting these entitlements. And yet it seems something that Republicans are reticent to speak honestly about, that's what would have to be done.
You know, my daddy was an old educator, and he used to tell me they always invite the people in to fix the problem that created the problem. You're asking the people that created the problem, did they make a mistake? And of course they're going to tell you, no, we didn't make a mistake. This is crazy. Well, nobody imagined any of these millions and billions of dollars that are going out. We're giving $40 million a week to the Taliban
I think
right
these
now.
are people.
Currently,
I think these are people who actually are interested in reducing. Some of these estimates, they are people who are interested in being fiscally conservative.
Then why don't they embrace the idea of exposing these things? Why do they want to demonize Trump and they want to demonize Elon Musk? It's ridiculous.
No, they don't.
Ma'am.
I'm just talking about.
No,
they're not. I'm just talking about
every day. Have you all ever had any in the last?
Folks,
I don't know, 3 weeks. An article on.
I'm talking about the math on waste, fraud, and abuse.
Well, look at the math. If Elon Musk says that he thinks he can find $1 trillion worth of waste, abuse, and fraud, why don't we let him try to see if he can find it? What does that hurt? You know, everybody's trying to be critical. They're attacking the message carrier, and you know the problem is that this money, you're going to see it going to politicians. And going out to these NGOs and all these organizations that they claim they're doing a good job, and it's coming right back to Washington and possibly both parties. And I think that's what a lot of these people are afraid of. They're going to get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and some of these people need to be in handcuffs because Medicaid and Medicare should be a sacred group of people, and we should not be stealing from any group that is trying to help that community. And that is what has happened. We just had a meeting just now. In oversight, there are 7 days. Somebody said, well, it's just so infantile, it's so small. And then it turned out, I asked, what is it a percentage? And they said 7 to 8%, over $150 billion that is being misdirected or stolen or whatever through fraudulent or human error.
I'm just trying to have
Why don't you embrace that? Why don't you all at CNN want
I'm trying to do a little math with you. I'm trying to do some math with you, talking about math that people
you all do not support one cut. CNN, you all do not support one dadgum cut in any of this stuff. You're trying to use the lowest denominator. You're trying to scare the most people to drive the train against Trump, and it's not working. The American people are not buying it, and you all have made a huge error in this because there's unbelievable waste.
I'm looking at the numbers.
No, ma'am, No, ma'am.
I'm looking at the numbers that DOGE has put out themselves. They say they're cutting contracts that have already ended. They say they're cutting a big amount. It turns out it's actually a smaller amount. That's just math, Congressman. And we're going to continue to keep looking at the math.
Are you saying there's not? Are you saying there's not? Well, look at the math. Are you saying there's not billions of dollars of waste, abuse, and fraud in federal government? Are you trying to say that? Because everybody out there knows
I don't need to tell you that. There's CBO estimates. That's what we're trying to discuss is the actual number. We're trying to have, at least I'm trying to have an honest conversation with you about the numbers and CBO estimates and the numbers that experts on this topic expect there to be. Congressman Tim Burchett, thanks for joining us.
Unnamed experts. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Really, an honest conversation. Do you know what honesty is based on? facts and reality. If you are going to be talking about what DOGE is or isn't doing, you might behoove yourself to actually provide some of those numbers instead of just saying, well, the estimates from the CBO says something. I wouldn't trust the CBO to estimate whether the dollar is going to go up or down. That organization hasn't gotten anything right in the past 20 years. So I can already throw out that piece of evidence right then and there. Then let's talk about any other potential numbers. Let's say that, Elon Musk is cutting contracts that have already ended. Okay. Can you please name them? Can you please do something line by line? Have some journalistic integrity to say, this contract went from this date to this date. Elon Musk came in later and said that it got cut and added it to his pile of trimmings, so to speak. Well, instead of doing that, all she said was, hey, there's some contracts that have already ended. We're just going to have to trust my word on that. Seeing that she's from CNN, the answer is going to be no. I am not going to trust you carte blanche on that. Even if your name's Scott Jennings, I'm sorry, you're hired by CNN. I'm not exactly inclined to trust you on that regard. As when it comes to Scott Jennings, it's all about how the Democrats have been ridiculous and have had double standards. That's where you trust him. But CNN is so bad in its reporting that I'm sorry, everyone has a little bit of guilt by association. And I hate guilt by association. It's not logical. It's not fair. But that's sort of the same thing that's going on in this conversation. This guilt by association idea that if you have been aligned with Elon Musk, you are trying to do something dastardly with our government money. When Tim Burchett comes out of a congressional meeting and says, well, as it turns out, there's an estimate anywhere between 7 and 8% of either Social Security or Medicare payments that have been improperly placed or, simply put, gone to fraud. 7 to 8% of the number 1 and number 3 expenditures of the federal government. That's a lot of money. No wonder we need DOGE to come in there and clean up a lot of this mess. That's a good thing that we're finding, all right? And the fact that we've been allowing this to happen for decades on end has been absolutely insane, and it's been a terrible stewardship of the American taxpayer dollar. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to Tim. That's not even fair to the people on CNN who at one point want some of that entitlement money that they've been paying into. But at a certain point, you're going to have to start wondering, do these people really want this sort of reform? Because for some insipid reason, during this entire video, there's this obfuscation, this attempt to say Elon Musk isn't really finding anything. I don't care if he only finds a couple of $100. I want someone from outside of the government, which Tim Burchett actually brings up because his father was an educator. And he said that you always bring in someone from your own organization to see where the problems lie. Because no one wants to fess up and admit, particularly in a government setting, that they screwed up something. It doesn't matter if it's state, local, or federal. People don't want to admit in government settings that they've screwed up. Okay? It's not like a corporation where if you've screwed up, you're going to get moved to another department or fired entirely. You can't really do that with the feds for some reason, and there's a longer discussion for that and how you're trying to keep people on a shoestring budget in the federal government. But there's an even bigger problem that's been going on throughout this video, and Tim Burchett briefly picks up on it, and that's the fact that places like the USAID and other non-governmental organizations have all these weird ties with all these politicians, and particularly with a whole lot of Democrats. And as someone who had to spend some time up in Northern Virginia, it's very interesting to see when you go into places like Arlington or Old Town, just how many people have all these weird signs saying, we support our government workers, or they're flying Ukraine flags before they'd ever fly a United States flag. So it begs all these questions that, where are their ties? Where is this money going towards? And then finally you start realizing that after DOGE has figured this out the hard way, that a lot of this money gets funneled back to other politicians, particularly Democrats. It does happen with Republicans as well. A good example of this would be Mitt Romney's kids serving on a Ukrainian oil board right after the 2014 coup. Funny how that works out, doesn't it? But ultimately, we're starting to expose through DOGE and through other organizations and people like Mike Benz who are out there screaming from the rooftops that this is how the CIA launders money, this is how Democrats get their easy kickbacks, this is how their friends make a lot of money. We're starting to see that a lot of the federal government money that gets wasted is really just spent on trying to enrich friends of people who have already got their fingers in the pies of our federal government. That is not a fair use of our tax dollars. That needs to be cleaned up. And the people on CNN want to deny that it's happening for essentially these reasons. Number one, they deny it because they're either complicit in it or they benefit from it. Those are pretty much the easiest ones to understand. But then there's another one. And that's the fact that it's once again Donald Trump in charge. It's the orange man trying to clean up DC, and they don't like that. They don't like that because that means that if Donald Trump finds the corruption, that means that the gravy train ends. Or worse, it means that there's egg on the face of all these bureaucrats who have been basically taking money out of the system for free. CNN doesn't want to expose that because that means that their entire narrative has been a lie. Meanwhile, it means Tim Burchett would be 100% right, and they'd lord that over them for now until the end of time. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.